Assessment validation is an essential part of the quality assurance and continuous improvement system in any RTO. So as an assessor, it gives you information about the appropriateness and the effectiveness of all of the systems you work within and the processes that you use. And it gives you a real voice in that process. And it also functions as confirmation about the decisions, the assessment judgments that you're making in relation to competency. So validation essentially is reviewing all of your systems and practices and with the intent of improving those systems and practices. So you're going to be looking as a group of trainers and assessors with your admin staff and your RTO at the different systems that your RTO offers. So their enrolment system, right the way through to the IT that's currently being used for that, your reporting systems, your student data management systems, and how effective and how easy to use they are, both from your experience and your learners' experience. So your learners might be giving you feedback in the form of a grievance if they're having some problems with it, or you're just giving some general feedback directly to your RTO. When you're reviewing and improving, in other words, you're validating processes, a lot of your procedures should be laid out in your RTO's policy manual. And a lot of processes deal with communication processes. And you'll find that it tends to be a communication problem, whether something is written poorly, it isn't explicitly stated, it isn't clear, or the processes or the steps aren't clear. And that type of information will come through via grievance from your learners or in your own feedback from your own experience. And again, validation is all about improving the systems. So you have a better experience as a trainer and assessor, and your learners have a much smoother experience as well. Validation also reviews and improves practices, so how we're benchmarking the units of competency. And this is directly linking into the rules of evidence. You know, is it sufficiently meeting the requirements of the units through those unit benchmarks? So again, we've said before that we want you to feel confident that the systems that you're working with, make sure that you're confident with the decisions that you're making in regard to those competencies. So if validation's occurring on a regular basis to make sure that all of you assessors there are following the same assessor guidelines, that you clearly understand what those guidelines are, that you understand what a satisfactory piece of evidence is and what it isn't, then you're really reviewing and improving those practices. Also, we need to make sure that we can improve on any resources. So some of the learning resources might come through as a grievance from a learner, that there's a problem with them accessing the resources or not understanding them. It might be you as a trainer or assessor not understanding the guidelines, or the lesson plan. So again, this is all still generally relates to the whole communication process. How is something written? How are the instructions written? How are they communicated through? What sort of IT is used to communicate things effectively? Is it slowing the process down? Is it the fact that you've got hard copy things that need to be scanned and sent? Is it easier just to have it electronically in the first place? So, how can you improve things to cut down on the downtime and make it a more effective experience for both you and the learners? And finally, and I guess the most essential of these, is the validation of the competency outcomes. So the final outcome, of course, is that we want the learner to be competent. We want you assessing them and you're judging them in that assessment process that they are competent in the unit. But we need to make sure from other stakeholders that what the final outcome is, what the final skill and the knowledge that the learner leaves with their qualification is actually meeting the industry needs. Okay, so we need feedback from the industry, we need feedback perhaps from their employer that they are actually at a skill level and a knowledge level that they can enhance their job there in the industry. So some of the outcomes that get validated is a moderation process. So you can see in this image here, our assessors are all sitting around moderating. So they've all brought their evidence for a particular performance criterion or an element perhaps in a unit, and they're all swapping with each other and reviewing each other's assessments to see whether there can be equivalent judgments. So, you know, if one assessor has said, yes, that's a satisfactory answer, you're passing that along, and the next assessor is looking at the question or the product and saying, yeah, no, that meets the rules of evidence, yep, I agree with that. So we want the outcomes to truly reflect what's required there as best industry practice.